What's going on? Tonight on 4th and a Mile, we're talking spring training. First weekend of spring training, what's going on there? Talking about transgender wrestling. Yes, you heard that correctly. And Jerry Jones is in some hot water with the NFL again. So stay tuned, guys. Welcome in, my friends, to the show that will not end. This is 4th and a Mile, presented by Planet Adam. I am your host, the Pharaoh or God King, if you will, of Planet Adam. I am Adam Fernandez. We've got a lot to talk about, but first, guys, don't forget to go over to bandcamp.com, check out A Bloody Chasm, download their music. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. They are the band that provides the entrance theme to the show. The song is called I Want to Rock and Roll, but they have another 4 songs on there. You guys will love everything that they do, especially if you're into punk or metal. You're going to absolutely love it. So go check them out. Go show them some love. In the meantime, that'd be showing me a little love as well. I'm going to turn up the volume just a little bit because I don't know if you guys are hearing me all that well. So anyway, we've got a lot to talk about, as we typically do on Mondays. And I hope everyone out there is having a great Monday night. I've got wrestling on right now, and so I'm watching that while talking to you guys. And that's not the kind of wrestling we're going to be talking about here. But anyway, so we have a lot to talk about. First off, I'm going to give you guys my take on the first weekend of spring training baseball. Not a lot going on at this point in time. It's mainly a bunch of AA and AAA players who are fighting for an opportunity to make the team, but most likely will not. Let me move that up a little bit, so I don't want to think that that my P's are coming out too, you know. Anyways, so yeah, it's a bunch of I mean, you do see the occasional everyday player in the games. They typically start the game, and it's usually about 3 or 4 of them per team. When they make road trips, you see a lot less of that even. So, and then they sit down after the second inning or their first or second at bat, mainly just to rest them and just to get them a little bit of work. And gradually, as spring training moves on, they start putting them in the games a lot more. So right now, we don't really have too much of a feel for what each team is going to look like, simply because we don't have enough games to decide that. Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay, hold on, Sherry. I love you, Sherry, but I'm doing my show right now. Anyways, yeah, I just got a message from Sherry, and so you guys heard it on the computer as well, because I am on Facebook Live right now. Anyways, so this is my early takes from the first full weekend of spring training. Not a lot to talk about. First off, JD Martinez is finally joining the Red Sox. He had a lot of trouble passing his physical due to a foot injury, but they have restructured that contract, and so they both have opt-outs after 3 years, both the club and JD Martinez, or is it 2 years? If they feel that he is injury prone or if JD Martinez just doesn't feel like playing with the Red Sox anymore. So being that he has a history of injuries, that is something that they're being very wary about, and you can't necessarily blame them for that. So you should see him start taking some in-game action here within the next few days. He's probably been working out before actually reporting to camp, but yes, he is now reported to camp. So we'll see how JD Martinez does. The biggest free agent signing of the season, if you want to call it that, was Shohei Ohtani from Japan. Now, he's played in 2 games that I've seen. One game he pitched. The other game, he pitched against the Brewers. The other game was today, and I don't even remember who it was that they were playing San Diego today. He so far, to me, looks far better as a hitter than he did as a pitcher. Granted, yes, it's still the early goings of spring, and you got to shake that rust off. And so as spring goes on, you'll be able to gauge more and more about how the player is going to look. But in his first spring training outing as a pitcher, Saturday against Milwaukee, he pitched an inning and a third. He gave up 2 hits, 1 walk, 2 runs, only one of those earned, 2 strikeouts, and 1 home run to Keon Broxton. That is not what they're expecting him to look like come regular season. And if that's how he's looking during regular season, it's going to be a long season for him pitching. Keon Buxton is more of Milwaukee's speedster than he is a power hitter for them. So giving up that home run, which was a blast, by the way. I saw that home run and it was a blast. Was not a good showing for him. He seemed to be all over the place, in my opinion. That's why he got taken out after 1 1/3, was because he had already reached his pitch count that Mike Scioscia put down for him, which was typically 30 pitches. I don't know exactly what it was for him this weekend, but it's probably 30 pitches after just an inning and a third. So as soon as Keon Buxton hit, did I say Keon Broxton? I'm sorry, Keon Buxton. As soon as Keon Buxton hit that home run, he was pulled from the game. So, however, in today's game against San Diego, as the team's DH, which he's planning on serving as a lot of the time while he's not pitching, he did go 1 for 1. He was walked twice, but then hit an RBI single in his third at bat. Well, the 2 walks don't count as an at bat, but his third time at the plate, so his third plate appearance. He did hit an RBI single and got the Angels on the board. They went on to score 4 runs that inning. So in that sense, you can say that Ohtani got the ball rolling for them. As soon as he hit that single, he was yanked for a pinch runner, and so it was the pinch runner that took over for him and scored the 1 run, or the first run, or no, scored the second run. I'm sorry, for the Angels. So yeah, I mean, I can't say that he looked far better as a hitter because he really only had 3 plate appearances and only one of them qualifies an at bat. But the pitching performance wasn't the best, so I would be, I wouldn't be scared yet if I'm an Angels fan, which I'm not, thank God. But I would be a little like, let's hope he does better the next game. I am, though, a fan of the St. Louis Cardinals, and if you guys watched the show on Friday, I basically lambasted Bill DeWitt and John Mozeliak talking about how this roster that we have, though talented, isn't good. They're individually talented, but they tend to all be streaky. So it's usually just one guy every game, seemingly, for the Cardinals, last year at least, that comes through and does something. So that's not winning baseball. And the pitching performances over the weekend were left a lot to be desired. Carlos Martinez, the ace of the staff, also went an inning and a third. Gave up one hit, one run, that run was earned. Blah 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 blah. 3 walks with 2 strikeouts. Now he again was all over the place, and last year during this time he was all over the place. He started off the regular season as the opening day starter, and for his first few starts where he was all over the place there as well. That got turned around, thankfully for him, but still he did not have a great season by any stretch of the imagination. This year they're going to need him to have a great year. And being that he's in some legal trouble, they might not even have him. So if he's going to be the ace starter for them, the opening day starter, the ace of the staff, then A, they need him to be there, but B, he cannot be looking like the Carlos Martinez of last year. He needs to be the Carlos Martinez of 2 years ago and 3 years ago. And he looked Saturday to be more of the Carlos Martinez from last year. And that is not what the Cardinals need. The other starter that they had go on Sunday was Miles Michaelis. I keep calling him Michaelis, but I guess he corrected everybody and told him his last name was Michaelis. He was this big free agent signing from Japan who, granted, he only played 3 years in Japan. He started his career off here in the majors, but then went over to Japan when he was having issues. But he was supposed to be this basically a secret weapon that nobody knows about because he's so good over there in Japan. And then he comes out for his first spring game, pitches an inning and 2/3, gave up 7 hits, 6 runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, and some of those runs were a home run from Kyle Tucker. If you ask me a year from now who the hell Kyle Tucker is, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. Seriously. Maybe I will. Who knows? He might end up being some really great hitter, but right now he's a double-A guy. So he did not look good at all. I was completely unimpressed with Michaelis. Although I did like the porn stash. He had a great porn stash going on. But outside of that, he was not impressive at all. His mechanics looked flawed to me. His pitches were all over the place. The only real pitches that he ever landed for strikes were fastballs, and those were all getting hit. They were all on, I guess you can say, Yadier's throwing side of the plate. So they were getting drilled. And so, yeah, he's got a lot to work on. If that's where he's starting off, he's got a lot to work on before regular season comes around. He's pretty much already guaranteed a spot on the opening day roster unless he gets injured, simply because Mozeliak is intent on making him this big mega signing that nobody knew about. Thirdly is Marcell Ozuna. We made that big trade for him, in which we sent over 3 big prospects for us to get him over to Miami. After we failed to get Giancarlo Stanton, we went for their next best in line, which was Ozuna, who hit 37 home runs last year. But that would lead you to ask the question, did he hit the 37 home runs because he was hitting behind Stanton, so he'd get pitches to hit where Stanton wasn't getting as many, and Stanton hit, 59 home runs? So Stanton was not getting pitches to hit and still drilling them out of the park like at a record pace almost. Ozuna hit 37, but he was getting pitches to hit. So, is Ozuna really that good, or is he just a product of being behind Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup? Well, so far this season, he's not really looked all that good. He's had 1 hit so far, and it was a base hit that was for an RBI. He just hasn't really done a lot. Granted, he hasn't had a lot of at-bats. I think he's had 4 or 5, but that was his only hit so far. And so that should be kind of worrying Cardinal fans a little bit. Maybe he's going to pick it up this week. Maybe not. We're hoping that he does. At least as a Cardinal fan, I'm really hoping that he does. But yeah, I'm a little nervous about him right now. We signed Dexter Fowler last season because Dexter Fowler was the heart and soul of the Cubs, and he knows how to win. And he, for the most part, ended up being a flop, in my opinion. He had some streaks where he looked great, but then, like I was saying about the Cardinals players being streaky last year, he was as streaky as they came. Very, very streaky. So, that's why I'm scared that Ozuna will fall in. And he doesn't have anyone like Stanton to protect him. So he's not going to be seeing a lot of pitches to hit. In fact, he's going to be getting a lot to not hit. So he's going to have some issues. I don't see him hitting 37 home runs again. I'm hoping that he can at least hit 30. But what I've seen so far, I'm not impressed. I'm not saying that he's not going to pick it up. I'm not saying that I'm scared. It's more that, come on, man. You know, you're a big off-season acquisition. You know, start proving why you were, you know. So that is the take so far on the first weekend of spring training. I was going to talk about King Felix getting knocked out of the game today, and by getting knocked out, I mean he took a fastball or took a hit off his arm, off his right arm, which is his throwing arm. In case you don't know who Felix Hernandez is, he's probably the greatest pitcher in the history of the Seattle Mariners. Well, no, I'd still probably give that to Randy Johnson, but Felix would be very close as a number 2. He's been pretty much as successful, just not as long-term yet as what Randy Johnson was. But it ended up just being a bruise on his arm, and so he's going to be basically day-to-day and start throwing again once he feels better, so he's okay. And speaking of the Cardinals and injuries by pitchers taking balls off the bat, a guy that did show up on, I believe it was on Saturday, no, it was on Sunday's game, who I think a lot of Cardinals fans were looking forward to seeing, was Daniel Ponce de Leon. He's a guy that throws a fastball upwards near 100 miles an hour. Now, if you throw a fastball, we'll say at 98 miles an hour, and a good power slugger gets all of it and hits a line drive, that's going to go probably at least a good 105, 110, maybe 115 miles an hour, just depending on who the hitter is. So last year, he was pitching in a minor league game, and he threw a fastball. The guy that hit it, I don't even know who it was, but it was one of their big hitters. Took a great swing, and the ball hit Ponce de Leon in the head. It cracked his skull. He could have died from this. So he was out the rest of the season. But now he's wearing a hat that's got a little padding on there. Apparently, he still has an indentation on his head from where the ball hit him, from where his skull cracked. So he's wearing a little padding in that spot. I think it's probably a good idea for all pitchers to wear a little padding in their hat. Maybe not necessarily those big, fat, ugly hats that they were trying to bring up a couple years ago, because those just looked utterly stupid. But something to protect their heads. I don't think they should be wearing batting helmets because, which I've seen that argument, but that just throws your game off as a pitcher. If you're a pitcher, it's all about weight distribution, arm release, and arm strength. And if you're wearing the helmet, that's going to throw your head back and forth a little bit. And so that'll mess up your weight distribution. You mess up the weight distribution, then you mess up the release point. You mess up the release point, then you don't have your arm strength may not be able to compensate. So I don't think that that's a good idea. And anybody that either has pitched before or knows baseball knows what I'm talking about there. But yeah, so helmets aren't a good idea. At least with those big ugly hats, at least they were very lightweight and didn't mess with your weight distribution at all. So I think it would be smart for pitchers, and I'm not saying like force them all to wear some padding, but if I'm a pitcher, I would say, you know what, because it could save my life, I'm going to wear some padding on my head. So, because they just don't have the time to react to it, especially right after they've thrown the pitch and their bodies are out of position to snag it. Sometimes they do, and those are great plays when they do that. But more often than not, they're not going to make that play. So, all right, so let's get on to some college football news, and this one just came down the wire right now, probably now about 30 minutes ago. Man, have I already been on that long? Let me see, what time is it? Or where's my timing at here? Oh, wow, I've already been on 20 minutes. Holy crap, this one's going to go long. I was not expecting that at all. So college football news, Butch Jones, the former head coach of the University of Tennessee, got fired this year pretty much after Clay Travis started drilling the University of Tennessee to get rid of him because he could not stand Butch Jones. He got fired, and right now he is in talks to join the University of Alabama as in an off-field capacity as a offensive analyst. That I think would maybe be a good position for him. I guarantee you we're going to hear about Clay Travis's thoughts on it tomorrow if you listen to his radio show or watch his podcast. But it's going to be entertaining to see what Clay Travis has to say, because Clay Travis cannot stand this guy. Simply he's saying that Butch Jones is about the biggest idiot to ever coach a football team that he's ever seen. So, and that's me putting it nicely. He went a little bit stronger than that. So that's the college football news for the day. So let's go on to something a little more, I guess, interesting in a way, but also more relative to what's going on in the world today. So there's this kid named Mac Beggs is his name. Mac Beggs is and I'm sure you guys have already all heard the story, is a boy who is transitioning from being a girl. He was born a girl and is transitioning to become a boy and wrestles in high school here in Texas. God's great republic, Texas. So, Mac Beggs went undefeated in wrestling this year to win the state title for the second straight year. The thing is that, and I saw a lot of people on I think it was SportsCenter Facebook, that misunderstood the whole thing. They were saying either A, they thought that he was a boy transitioning into being a girl, so that's not fair, or they thought that it was a law in Texas that says that you have to compete in the gender that you were born in. I'm not going to get into what gender is what or what sex is what. I'm not going to get into all that. But what I am going to get into is the big thing that people are not understanding here is that it's not a law. It is not set in the Texas Constitution. What it is rules set down by the University Interscholastic League. And if you went to high school here in Texas, you know exactly what that is. They are basically in charge of all competition of any kind here in Texas, whether it be debate, whether it be athletics, whether it be the chess team. They are in charge of everything competitive in the state of Texas. So we have the rule that says you must compete with the gender that you were born or that's on your birth certificate. It's not a Texas law. It is not a Texas law. Texas has nothing to do with that. So the University Interscholastic League deputy director named Jamie Harrison has come out and said, now, well, before we even get into that, let me also get into this premise as well. Because he is transitioning into being a boy, two of the things he has to take are testosterone and steroids, which are both universally seen throughout the athletic world as performance-enhancing drugs. Now, I don't know exactly how much is allowed, if any. My thought is that no PEDs were allowed in any sport in anywhere in the world. but it might be different. It might be, well, as long as it's not X amount of dosage or whatever. But if that's the case, he's not exceeding those dosages. But he is taking them, and he is seriously wiping the floor with these girls that he's wrestling, because he's wrestling in the girls division because he was born a girl. So he's wiping the floor with the girls, goes undefeated, wins his second straight state title, and everyone is saying that, well, you know, Texas law doesn't allow him to compete with boys. Again, it's not Texas law. I guarantee you that it is not Texas law. It is the UIL rules of competition. That being said, the UIL Deputy Director, Jamie Harrison, has come out and said that the UIL is not in the business of determining gender. The UIL is willing to consider making exceptions to rules if asked. And neither Begg's family nor the high school that Beggs goes to, somewhere up there in Dallas, I can't remember the name of the school, have done that, have asked for the UIL to look into the case. According to Beggs, he was trying to wrestle with the boys, but the rules state that he can't. Instead of trying to get the permission from the UIL, the family and the school have just left it alone and said, well, the rules say that we can't. But the UIL will not initiate a move, but they will look into and possibly consider making an exception to the rule depending on the situation. So, we have this young man now, Mac Beggs, kicking the snot out of high school girls because he's on steroids and on testosterone. He might be that good of a wrestler, but my thoughts is probably not really. Because, let's be honest, steroids and testosterone would give you a physical advantage, hence why PEDs are not allowed in any form of competition anywhere in the world that I know of. So, if the levels that he's on are just enough to, I guess, help him become a boy, and not overdoing it to help him become a, like, Braun Strowman here. Braun Strowman, I'm not saying is on any kind of PEDs. He was just on TV. If that's the case, then I'm sure that the UIL would at least look at possibly allowing him to compete with the boys. But the family nor the school asked the UIL to look into it, according to Jamie Harrison. So, what you have going on is this, for all intents and purposes, young man is beating the shit out of these girls when, in my opinion, he should be competing against the boys. Simply because he's more of a boy now than he is a girl. I'm not going to get into the surgery and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But with the levels of testosterone in steroids, he is more like a boy than he is like a girl. So that's where he needs to be competing. And so that makes me wonder, it really does, if the reason he's not isn't because he's not being allowed to by the UIL, but if both his family and his school wanted him to be a massive success. I mean, they obviously want him to be a massive success, but are they willing to do that in order to make him a massive success? To get his name out there to where he's national news? Because you know what? He's national news now. I mean, one of the articles, and I've read a bunch of the articles on it, but one of the articles was from the Chicago Tribune. I also saw NBC Sports talking about it. I also saw ESPN talking about it. So, there's no doubt in my mind that he is now a big national news story. Is that what they were trying to do? To get recognition for Mac Beggs in a light that, well, now he's famous, and also were they trying to get attention to the school? If so, I think they're really honestly taking advantage of this boy because yes, you know what? I'll call him a boy. I have no problem doing that at all. You guys can say all you want to. Well, he's really a girl. I don't give a shit what you guys say. I'm calling him a boy because that's what he is essentially. So, but again, this is kind of skirting the rules in my opinion, even though the rule is set that he has to compete with the girls. But if he's going to compete with the girls, then they need to take him off of the steroids. They need to take him off of the testosterone. Now, apparently there's a smaller university here in Texas that's offered him a scholarship to wrestle against men. So there he's going to get his wish, I guess, to compete against the men. But now you got to wonder just how bad he's going to get his ass kicked up there. Because now he's going to be going against guys that have been doing this for forever and a day, who are probably a lot stronger than even he is. And so, and I saw, you know what? I saw some people on those same Facebook posts, ESPN or whatever, and you guys are fucking disgusting, saying stuff like, well, he should be raped in prison, and no, he should not be. He does not need to be going to prison for this. It's not like he's beaten any of these girls within an inch of their life, kind of like what what's her name, Fallon, is doing down there in MMA. It's wrestling. It's not the same thing. It's not punching and kicking, so no, don't give me that. But I would honestly consider, I don't want to even say that, taking away his state titles, but putting whoever he was in the finals with up there as a co-champion. Simply because that person was good enough to get there without the use of steroids and PEDs, but they had to face off against someone that was on steroids and steroids and testosterone. So that would be my suggestion. And maybe that young lady is trying to get a scholarship to wrestle at a university as well in the women's division. So that would help her out there instead of having the one blemish on her name being against a boy who's on steroids. So I don't like it. I don't think that he should have been allowed to compete with the girls. I think he should have been competing with the boys. And, as long as he's staying under the levels of what would constitute him transitioning into a male, as long as he's staying under those levels and not going into superhuman strength, then I would be fine with that. So, all right. So, do I have any questions there? No, because nobody's even on here. Man, come on, people. So, let's go on over now to what's going on in Dallas Cowboy Land. This is a great story, sort of. I mean, it's kind of funny at the same time. It's kind of sad at the same time. It's kind of just, what the hell are you guys doing up there in the NFL? And I don't just mean Roger Goodell. I'm talking Jerry Jones as well and all the other owners. So Roger Goodell is said to be planning to fine Jerry Jones millions of dollars, not just $1 million, millions of dollars. For Jones' efforts to derail his contract negotiations, Goodell's contract negotiations. In case you didn't know, Goodell re-signed a few months back with the NFL to continue to be their commissioner for another 5 years. I was very much against Roger Goodell being the commissioner. I think he's really taken a lot of steps to drive the numbers of viewers down. It's not the same game as it was even 10, 15 years ago. That, and with all the political stuff going on as well, the numbers are really crashing for the NFL. So the numbers are down drastically because of the politics and because it's just a shit product now. But what this is, to me, is Goodell reigniting the feud with Jones after he's pretty much already won. He's already won because, guess what? He got his contract renewed. Jones was trying to get him not renewed. Okay, so according to sources in the league offices, Goodell was reluctant to be seen as exacting retribution, but was urged by several owners who felt that Jones had threatened them, thus crossing an unspoken boundary for NFL owners. Basically, what he was threatening them with was there were 6 owners that sit on the compensation committee, and he had threatened to sue them if they go ahead and go along with Goodell's contract extension. And so they felt threatened by that, so they're the ones that are now apparently pushing Goodell to go ahead and fine Jerry Jones millions of dollars. On top of that, Jones was very outspoken when he was lobbying for Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott was suspended during the preseason for 6 games, but he appealed, and so he got suspended again later, and yet again appealed, and went to federal court. The federal court upheld the NFL's ruling, and so he did get suspended for 6 games towards the very end of the season, which some could argue that cost cost the Cowboys a playoff spot. I said could argue. To be honest with you, I don't think they were that good of a team this year, so even with him in the lineup. But Jerry Jones was very, very, very publicly adamant about how stupid this was because, A, the incident in which he was being suspended for was before he was even in the NFL. It was sometime either his senior year of college at Ohio State or just maybe a little bit afterwards, before he got drafted. But what it was a domestic violence case. The young lady, an ex-girlfriend of his, all she really supplied the NFL with was her story of what happened and pictures of bruises on her. However, the police that investigated it as a domestic violence crime dropped all charges because they had witness statements saying that he didn't do anything. They found that she was unreliable, and so it looks to me like the police dropped the charges because nothing had happened, but the NFL is go ahead and suspending him to save face because of incidents like, say, Ray Rice, for example, where we all saw Ray Rice beat the shit out of his fiancée, now wife, in an elevator, and Ray Rice hasn't played in the NFL since. So that's kind of what it looks like as far as to an outsider looking in, or at least to me looking in. So Jerry Jones was, and rightfully so, I think, in my opinion, rightfully so. I don't think Elliott should have been suspended at all. Was very adamant and was really pissed off at Roger Goodell. So that is why, that's a big reason why he was against renewing Roger Goodell's contract. Doing the contract extension. At the same time, because the ratings for the NFL, the numbers are dropping, like I said, for all the other stuff that's going on. And so Jones didn't want him back as the commissioner. Now, Jones is very, very, very influential. He's one of, if not the most influential people in the entire NFL. You know, I would say him and Robert Kraft are right there. Robert Kraft being the owner of the New England Patriots. But, so after all that, Jones will be ordered to pay the legal fees for the NFL's defense of itself and defending its decision to suspend Ezekiel Elliott. Here's the thing: Goodell is guaranteed 12% of the contract that he signed, but he can make more based on financial outcomes. Now, with the numbers plummeting as they have been, if they don't really change it around here really quick, then you're going to see Goodell stuck at that 12%. But if he gets the full 100%, you're talking about $200 million that Goodell will win, or not win, but he will get paid by the NFL. So that is a big reason as to why Jerry Jones was adamant about getting derailing the contract extension. He didn't want Roger Goodell to get his contract extended. From what the league sources have also said is that several of the guys on the compensation committee were along with him on that until he threatened to sue. And then that's when they said, well, you know what? Screw you, Jerry. We're going to go ahead and extend his contract. So the mistake that Jerry did was threaten to sue the compensation committee. My guess is, had he not done that, we'd be talking about a new NFL commissioner right now, other than Roger Goodell, like maybe Condoleezza Rice, for example, who's outwardly said many a time that she would love to be the NFL commissioner. So that's what's going on with that. Neither the NFL nor the Dallas Cowboys were available for a statement on this matter, at least not as of yet. If they do come out with a statement, I'll tell you guys about it tomorrow. But as of right now, neither one of them have issued a statement on the matter. So, all right. So now it's time for that fun part of the week that we like to do. If I were the GM of a Major League Baseball team. We've already done catcher. We've already done first base. We've already done second base. Tonight we're going to do third base. Tomorrow we'll be doing shortstop. And I don't know if I want to do outfield all in one or if I want to separate left fielders, center fielders, and right fielders. I'll probably do 10 outfielders all in one is what I'll probably end up doing because there's a ton of them. So that's probably what I'm going to do tomorrow night. So, all right. So here we go, guys. If I were the GM of an expansion Major League Baseball team and I am trying to build a team that will win not right away. That's my theory is, as an expansion team, you don't try to win right away. You try to win down the line and be competitive down the line. You try to win 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And the way to do that, in my opinion, is to get young guys in there. So if you disagree with any of these, feel free to and say that, well, what about Adrian Beltre? He's a great third baseman. He is. He's, in my opinion, first ballot Hall of Famer. But he's got maybe 1 or 2 years left. So that's why I wouldn't put Adrian Beltre in there. But here we go. The first third baseman, so number 5 on my list, is going to be Anthony Rendon from the Washington Nationals. Now, he was kind of tough because he is 27 years old. So you got to think if you're signing him long term, then you're probably not going to get everything out of him that you can because third base, playing the hot corner, is a tough position to play. You take a beating there just by any hits down that way. You have to be pretty athletic to play it. Anthony Rendon basically took over for Ryan Zimmerman, who's now playing first base for the Nationals. And Ryan Zimmerman is still a pretty damn hot bat, but he just can't do it in the field as much anymore. So you would think that the same thing would probably be said about any third baseman, is that after you reach a certain age limit, you're not going to be able to play that position anymore unless you're pretty much superhuman like Adrian Beltre. But he is still young enough to where I think you should still be able to get 5 or 6 good years out of him at third base, barring any major injury. His stats last year, he hit .301 for 25 home runs and 100 RBI. So he had a really good season last year. He started off kind of slow, but then he picked it up in that game. I want to say it was against the Mets, where he hit 4 home runs in that game, and just that was the best game of his career. But that's not to shortchange him for the rest of the season. He had a phenomenal season last year for the Nationals. So I would definitely have him up there. And like I said, as number 5. I wouldn't put him at number 1 because there's still a couple people that are, I think, way better than him. But number 4 is going to be, this is number 4, Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros, the World Series champion Houston Astros. Alex Bregman is only 23 years old, which is perfect age to be on this list. Last year, he hit .284, had 19 home runs, 71 RBI. I think he's just going to get better as the years go by. That as a rookie is already phenomenal numbers. So I expect him to have a lot better numbers this year. He was part of the World Series champions, like I said, and he was a big part of them. He played a huge role for them in the World Series and in the postseason in general. But also had a really good first full regular season as well. So I would definitely put him up there. But I'm only putting him up there at number 4 because, again, last year he was a rookie, and we don't know exactly how he's going to pan out over the next few years, but I would suspect that he's going to end up being pretty damn good. So number three. Now, number three, this one is also kind of tough because he's got some legal issues of his own going on. But number three is going to be Miguel Sano. I've talked to you guys about him a few times, mainly in the course of talking about the sexual misconduct accusations made by a photographer for the Twins at a mall up there in Minnesota. I'm assuming the Mall of Americas. I don't know that for a fact. But this kid is, I mean, outside of his personality, because we don't really know his personality, so I don't know if he's really that much of a scumbag or if she's making it up. I don't know yet. The last I saw was what I told y'all that night. So, but yeah, Miguel Sano is really a stud at third base. Last year, I mean, he's only 24 years old too, so again, he's got a long way to go. He's got more years in his windshield than he does in his rear view. So, but last year he hit 264, which isn't great, but it's not bad considering he's a slugger. That's about what you would expect. 28 home runs and 77 RBI. I think he's going to get better as the years go on as well. I think that he's really got potential to be one of the greats. As long as he can get past the issues that he's having off the field and he can keep his nose clean, then he's really got a chance at being something massively good. So that's why he's number three, though, is because he's got those issues coming up, and so he may be facing suspension. So I don't want a guy that's getting suspended to be on my team. So that's why he's number three. Well, that's why he's number three. Plus the first two guys are, I think, better. And so that brings up number two, and number two is going to be, where's his picture at? There it is. Number two is, the girls love this guy, Chris Bryant of the Chicago Cubs. I know a lot of people are saying, why isn't he number one? But I'll get into that in a minute. Chris Bryant is a phenomenal third baseman, a phenomenal fielder, a phenomenal hitter. He was the 2016 National League MVP. He's only 26 years old, so again, you would have to say that he's probably going to be third base until maybe 34, 35, and then maybe transition over to first base. Ryan Zimmerman was kind of an anomaly because I think he was only 33 or 34 when he transitioned over to first base last year. But so he's going to be there for a while. He's in phenomenal shape, so the chances of him getting hurt aren't that high, really, to be honest with you. But yeah, his numbers last year were, again, amazing for a team that really failed to show up last year after winning the World Series in 2016. They weren't nearly as good last year as they were the year before. But Bryant went 295, 29 homers, and 73 RBI. Still phenomenal numbers for him. He's, like I said, he's a great third baseman at fielding the ball. He's a great hitter, and you can never go wrong with being a GM with a guy that can draw in more fans, and the women love him, so he's going to draw in a lot of women fans. So, you know, that's a bonus perk of having Chris Bryant as your third baseman. So, all right, so that brings us to number one, and number one is the guy who he's not only he's pushing the age limit, but not fully pushing it. He's the same age as Chris Bryant. He's 26. But in my opinion, the very best third baseman in the game right now. He's better than any of the veterans. He's better than any of the young players. He is the very best that there is, especially in the field. And that is Nolan Arenado. Now, the one thing that would get on Nolan Arenado is the fact that he plays in Denver. And in Denver, offense happens because they're so high up, the air's so thin there. You always see guys going over there hitting 30-plus home runs, and they go to another team where they don't play in Denver all that much, if at all, and they only end up hitting 20 to 25 home runs instead of the 35, or in his case 37 that he hit last year. So that would be the one knock on Arenado. But as far as his fielding, he's second to nobody. He is by far and away the best that there is. Hold on, let me put this on pause because Triple H is about to come out, and I don't want to miss that. So he is by far the best that there is, fielding-wise. And then offensively, like I said, last year he went 309, 37 home runs, 130 RBI. He is the face of the Colorado Rockies, the very best in the world, in my opinion. And I would not, if I wouldn't take anybody above him, even if, let's say that the knock is accurate on him, that yes, his offense isn't as good as what his numbers say because he plays in Colorado. Even if that's not the case, his numbers will still be pretty damn good. And the fielding that you get out of him as a third baseman is irreplaceable. Chris Bryant is a great fielding third baseman. He cannot hold a candle to Nolan Arenado fielding the ball. So, I mean, there are plays that I thought that I would never see anybody be able to make, and he's made them. So yes, Nolan Arenado is the number one in my top 5 third baseman that I would pick to start a Major League Baseball franchise. So, all right, guys, are there any questions on that? Are there any questions on anything at all that I talked about today? Any questions about Shohei Ohtani, the Cardinals, JD Martinez? Any comments? Am I wrong in any way on any of those? Am I wrong on the dealings with Mac Beggs? Am I wrong on the Jerry Jones, Roger Goodell thing? Are there any questions on any of it? You guys let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube, give me a like, give me a share, subscribe to the channel. This is what we do. This is what I do every damn night, 5 nights a week, is just talk sports. I sit here and talk sports. It's a podcast. You know, it's not there's nothing fancy to it. You know, I don't try to get too cute. I just like to talk about sports. I'm a sports fan. I am by no means a sports journalist or an analyst. I am a sports fan. I know sports very well, and I love to talk sports. I can talk sports to anybody. As long as you want to talk sports, we can talk sports. We can argue anything else in the world. We can argue politics. We can argue the law. We can argue anything. But when it comes to sports, we can sit down and we can talk and discuss. And we can argue sports too, but it'll be a lot friendlier of an argument. So, all right, guys, if there is nothing going on, and apparently there's not, then I wish you all a great Friday night. It's already 10 o'clock, so we've been on for quite a while here. We've been on, holy crap, 51 minutes. I wish you all the great Monday night. I love you all. I'll see you tomorrow. And as always, besos.